How are we going to walk on feeling we're on the razor's edge of life? To finding our faith, to know that we are one. That is what we're going to talk about today. I don't know if I introduced myself. I'm Reverend Karin. I'm the spiritual leader of this organization. Welcome. I want to add my welcome to all the beloveds who are here for the first time, or those who came back after a while and say, you're welcome here. That is what we are. That is who we are. That is what we're letting the world know. We are in a new month. We this year are utilizing the Centers for Spiritual Living annual theme. Now, if you are following the annual theme, you might say, I don't think embracing the edge was planned for May. That was back in February. And you would be correct. In February, Reverend Leslie and I wanted to dive deeper into the teaching, so we decided to move this month theme to May. So we're all good? Good. All right. And the talk title today is Living on the Inner Edge. Now, doesn't that sound fun? You know how we often say that these talks work us so much, and yet another example, yes. Speaking about living on the inner edge brought a plethora of opportunities to me to leave my comfort zone. And so let's unpack this together. And I don't want to let you hang too long, so I'm going to cut right to the chase. Living on the inner edge means you are at the edge of your comfort zone. That's it. That's really all there is to it. And we all have a comfort zone, right? We all know how that feels. And it is that we constructed this narrative about us that keeps us in this comfort zone. It includes perhaps our physical appearance, how tall I am or how short, if I speak with an accent, if I have a different degree of ableism. It also includes my accomplishments, what I have done, the things that I have survived. All of these things are the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves, and they make up our comfort zone. And I've been thinking a lot about that this week. Is that really all who we are? This is where you say loudly, no. Right? Because we know that we are so much more. There is meditation in the Living the Science of Mind book. It's on the very last page, and I could not believe I took my Science of Mind book home and I didn't bring it, but I will go ahead and read it to you. Because it talks about that this invitation of living the science of mind, this teaching that Dr. Ernest Holmes brought forth, living it means that I am willing to see myself the way the divine sees me. That is really what it says. I am willing to see myself the way that the divine sees me. And so here it says, this is what it says in that meditation. Living the science, so I say quietly to myself, there's one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. I wanted us to chant that for 108 times, but I was nixed when I talked to Tom about this. So you can thank Tom if you really wanted to do that. There's one life, that life is God, that life is perfect, that life is my life now. It is flowing through me, circulating in me. I am one with its rhythm. My heart beats with the pulsation of the universe in serenity, in peace, and in joy. My whole physical being is animated by the divine spirit, and if there's anything in it that does not belong, it is cast out because there's one perfect life in me. I love that. I love that. And now that sounds a lot bigger than the story I tell about myself, does it not? Right? It sounds a lot bigger. It sounds like the invitation to live that one great spiritual life, to do what we came here to do. And yet, there are limitations. We have a slide from Dr. Ernest Holmes that says, each person is not only a center of God consciousness, they are an immortal being forever expanding, forever spiraling upward, forever growing in spiritual stature. I love the way Dr. Ernest Holmes talks. Doesn't it make you feel like this spiraling upward is like floating on a breeze that just takes you higher and higher, and it is easy and not messy? That's what I thought. That's what I thought. And yet, if we decide to really apply this teaching, if we decide to live trusting that 100%, we are very quickly getting in contact with our comfort zone. Now, what's our comfort zone? I think about it this way. If I'm standing here, my comfort zone is about here. Right about here. That's my comfort zone. And what is right beyond that comfort zone? It is the uncomfortable zone, yes. It is the uncomfortable zone, yes. I think we have a slide that shows it beautifully. Here's my comfort zone, and there is, right outside of it, is discomfort and fear. And I hope I'm not the only one who ever has experienced that. Yeah? Right? When we leave what we are comfortable, what we're familiar with, the stories we have told ourselves all of our lives, when we are willing to leave it, we are immediately getting in contact with discomfort and fear. And here's where the science of mind teaching comes in, and all of the tools that we have access to here. It tells us there is another zone beyond it, and that is the zone of learning and growth and transformation and even metamorphosis. Metamorphosis, the kind of transformation where you can't even recognize the form after the individual has gone through the transformation. Think about the caterpillar to the butterfly. So that is what this month is inviting us into. I just want to be upfront. If you're coming back through the months of May, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how do we want to, and why would we want to leave our comfort zone to make it through the discomfort and fear to arrive at learning, transformation, and growth. Now, I thought I would ask you here in the sanctuary and online, what's so bad about staying in our comfort zone? You don't grow, yes. Boring. Anything else?
We don't like it.
We don't like it? Okay. Okay. Say it again. It's bigger. It's larger, right? Yes. Basically, if we are not choosing to grow, if we are choosing to stay in our comfort zone, we stop learning, we stop growing, and basically we are sacrificing our spiritual magnificence for the illusion of safety. I'm going to say that again. Yes. Let's take a breath together. If we choose to stay within our stories, in our comfort zone, we are sacrificing our spiritual magnificence for the illusion of safety. When I think back to the pandemic, one of the things we often said at that time, that it was such a good exercise in telling us that the safety that we felt before was really an illusion. Do you remember that? Do you remember how discombobulating that was? Yeah. So this disillusion of safety, realizing that there are reasons we stay in the comfort zone. There are reasons why we play small, why we stick with our story. And so for a minute, I'd just like to talk about what keeps us stuck in our comfort zone. Is everybody okay to acknowledging to themselves that we all have been stuck in our comfort zone at one point or another? I see Reverend Jeff is saying no. Okay. Take a moment, perhaps take a moment and ask yourself, where have I chosen to stay in my comfort zone rather than make it through the uncomfortableness into growth? And I want to share 4 psychological barriers that can help us understand why we might do that. The first one is fear of failure, right? Fear of failure. If I'm going to do the thing and I am failing, then I'm going to feel bad about myself. What are people going to think? What are they going to say? So the fear of failure, big one. That is why we stay in our comfort zone. The second one, perfectionism. Perfectionism. If I cannot do it 100% right out of the gate, I am not going to do it. I want to be the first person who plays pickleball on a 4.0 level, right? Never missing a ball. Think about it. Think about what that does to the impulses to get us out of our comfort zone. The third one is imposter syndrome. You might have heard about that. And you would be surprised how many people, successful people, are suffering from that. Imposter syndrome is this idea that if I do the thing that I feel I'm called to do, they're going to find out that I really didn't have all that it took to do that. That I wasn't even deserving of all the accolades that I got before. Have you ever felt like that? Imposter syndrome. And then the fourth one is fear of success. Fear of success. Very big one. I always think about Marianne Williamson's, my deepest fear is not that I am inadequate. My deepest fear is that I am powerful beyond measure. It is my light, not my darkness, that most frightens me. And you noticed I changed it from us, because if you make it into the first person, you can really feel what the limitation feels like. I love that poem so well. Marianne Williamson wrote it in the Return to Love, that we made a couple copies. If you don't have that poem, grab one of those copies on your way out of the sanctuary and read it often. Feel it. Allow yourself to feel it. Now, why might it be important that we take the time and ask ourselves, well, which one of these psychological barriers keeps me stuck in my comfort zone? And the answer is, it is so important because if I have a fear of failure, I would use different tools than if I have a fear of success. Do you see that? So that's why it's important to ask ourselves, what is really behind this? Why am I so hesitant to go out into the world and let the world see me? And then whatever comes up within, it helps us identify what our next steps could be if we choose to live a bigger spiritual life. You might resonate with one or two of them. And these barriers have no weight other than the weight that we give them, right? Ernest Holmes says it this way: our real enemies are our fears and phobias, our doubts and uncertainties, our anxieties, and our inner conflicts. Let's all breathe, because when we are in that, when we feel that fear rising up within, about the last thing we want is somebody reading that quote to us. So if you find yourself currently in one of those spaces where you're feeling that life is asking you to expand and you're saying, no thank you, I'm fine, I'm going to stay right here. Find ways where you can hear this truth in a gentle way. Because, beloveds, that is really the work of the New Vision Center, to provide us all with so much opportunity for personal growth. It is a constant invitation to get out of our comfort zone, to make it through the fear and discomfort area so that we can step into the learning and the growth. Sometimes those invitations are like a little breeze on a meadow that just take those little umbrellas of the dandelions and just float them out into the world for growth. And sometimes it is a crowd of sorrows that comes in and sweeps your house clean. And all of it is an invitation for growth. It is an invitation for standing up for what we say we believe. And so, a couple of weeks ago, I had one of those opportunities. One of our congregants had seen something on Facebook, and they sent me a text and wanting to talk about this. Now, I could have a whole talk on Facebook, on any social media really, on the benefits and also on the challenges, right? But this particular one, it came to me, and it was, I think we have a copy of it. It is a wonderful poster that was posted at the recent convention of Centers for Spiritual Living. And several centers are recognized. So if you can't read it, it says, Centers for Spiritual Living Supercenters. Thank you for supporting home office. And then in the bottom there, it says, communities with 100,000 plus budget who pledged more than 5%. And this beloved said, wait a minute, we always tell our community we are pledging 8% to home office and 2% to a local nonprofit partner, right? And so the text just said, why are we not on this list? And I happened to be in one of those growth spurts, and the first thing that I thought was, did I do something wrong? Did I do something wrong? Is it my fault that this community, that is a super center in my mind, is not on that list? And here is where I want to be transparent. Because I said a version of, I think I'm going to let this one pass. I'm going to let somebody else figure this one out. I wish that would have worked, but it didn't. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I asked myself, why is this so important to me? And what I came to understand is I was afraid that if I would dig into to find out what happened here, that I would discover that I made a mistake. So the next day, well, I should say, I went to my preferred tool and spoke a spiritual mind treatment right there in the middle of the night. And I told myself the truth, that even if I made a mistake, I am still whole, perfect, and complete. Because I'm human, right? Yes. Oh, thank you. So to make a long story short, there were a lot of phone calls, there was a lot of digging into the numbers, and come to find out that the way Centers for Spiritual Living asked for the budget in our annual reports that we give them was very unclear. They just asked for our budget, so we gave them our budget, which of course includes a big chunk of rental income, a big chunk of class income, retreats, all of these other incomes that we wouldn't tithe on. It's not part of our agreement that we tithe on that. Our agreement is that we tithe 10% of all the money that is given to us as gifts and offerings. And I just wanted to make sure that, did everybody understand that, what happened? So just a misunderstanding. As a matter of fact, when I talked to the director of Centers for Spiritual Living, he said, we are going to rewrite our affiliation agreement and we're going to get clear on what it is that we are agreeing to. And I think that's a wonderful thing, right? But why does it have to come when something is discovered like that? That was personal. That was just, I was just having a little moment there. So anyway, at our town hall afterwards, there's a letter of apology from the director of Centers for Spiritual Living, and New Vision Center is now officially a CSL Supercenter. And I tell you this story because I think it illustrates so perfectly how fast we can be thrown out of our comfort zone, right? And that all of the things that were going through my mind had nothing to do with reality, with small r reality. I love this work. I absolutely, absolutely love this work. So let's review. We all have a comfort zone, yes? We all have around the comfort zone a zone where we are getting in contact with our fears and discomfort and insecurities. And beyond that, we get to growth, transformation, and learning. Is there another way? We have to go through it. We have to go through it. So one of the things that I feel can help us with this are affirmations. I think we have a slide where we put an affirmation that I'm going to invite you to use this week. And let's say it together. I meet my inner edge with courage, curiosity, and compassion. And breathe in and ask yourself which one of those 3 C's is harder for me. Which one of those 3 C's is harder for me? Is it courage? Is it curiosity? Or is it self-compassion? And the good news is there's no right or wrong answer. Let's say it again. I meet my inner edge with courage, curiosity, and compassion. And so what then is the invitation for this week? Well, the invitation is to be willing to step maybe a little back, or to create some space between something that happens and your reaction to it. Let's all breathe into that. Yeah. And ask yourself, am I coming in my reaction from a place of fear? Or am I coming not wanting to grow right now? Or is there a deeper fear that I can take some time to uncover? One of the wonderful ways of doing that is working with a practitioner, working with someone who can see us beyond the woods, right? They can see just us. They don't see what's happening in our mind, the fears that are going back and forth. Classes, another way. It's such a good way to deepen into this, because we always say on Sunday mornings we point into the direction we want to go. But then it is each and every person, it's our work to walk that path. Yes? All right, and so it is. Thank you. Oh, beloveds, let's take it into prayer. If we have practitioners in the room who are in that place of overflow, please rise and help me hold the space. The reason we do that, sometimes I get asked, why are you asking the practitioners to stand? It is because while we give these talks, what we're really doing is we're loving the community up. And it takes a village. It takes all of us. So thank you for that support. And so we just take a breath as I speak a spiritual mind treatment, as I recognize that there's one power, one presence, that the divine is right where I am. It is love, it is peace, it is harmony, it is joy. It is the willingness to expand, the willingness to be seen and heard and loved right where I am. And as I know that this is the truth of myself, I know that this is the truth of every beloved within the sound of my voice. Every beloved that is passing by on Tatum Boulevard. Everyone in the sanctuary, on the online community. I know that there is one life. That life is our life. That life is good. And so I speak my word from this place, seeing in my mind's eye an upward spiraling of all of the challenges, all of the Kerfuffles und Herausforderungen that we are experiencing. An upward spiraling to that which is the divine, that is everywhere present, that is in us. It is where we have our being. I know this for every beloved who has placed a prayer request into our ministry of prayers. I know this for everything that is on our hearts. How grateful, grateful, grateful I am to know that this is the truth, that there is a power greater than I am that can uplift me. And so it is with a grateful heart that I call this time good and very good, that I know it is done. As I place it into universal law, I simply let it be. And so it is.